I'm so excited today to kick off our very first Master Your Art Technique webinar with Painter Master Dwayne Vance that I have right here. So this is the first in our series that we will have. They'll be the third Tuesday of every month. You can go to corel.com/webinars to see the lineup of who we have scheduled. But for now, we're going to concentrate on concept art. And Dwayne has such a wealth of experience to share with you. He's done work for a huge lineup of amazing companies, too many for me to even give you the entire list right here, but the likes of Mattel, Hot Wheels, Barbie, Batman, Hasbro, Star Wars, and even more. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Dwayne. So Dwayne, go ahead and get started.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming, everybody. Really appreciate people showing up to check out my stuff. And hopefully I get to share some stuff with you guys today that'll help you out with your design and maybe learn some stuff about Painter as well. Okay. So, yeah, thanks again for everybody showing up and checking out this tutorial or webinar. Corel approached me about doing some demo work for them, and I was highly honored to get to do this kind of stuff. I get to do a lot of neat work out there, and I feel pretty blessed I get to do it, that's for sure. I've worked for companies like Tanya talked about. I had a full-time position at Hot Wheels for a while, so I was a full-time designer there. Worked on in a lot of the different properties, everything from Acceleracers to the new Battle Force 5. A lot of the vehicles, creating the transformations, creating the actual look of the vehicles. I also worked in the motocross industry for a while, where I did a lot of design work for helmet design and protective gear, stuff for vehicle race graphics, race teams, things like that. So I've been able to do some really fun work throughout my career. But to get started, I kind of brought up just a few images that I've used Painter on. I think the majority of these I was using anything from Painter 9 all the way to Painter 11. I haven't done a full-blown painting in Painter 12 yet, but I'm sure I will coming up soon. This image here was one that I did all in Painter 11, and it was a book cover for a autobiography about a pilot that flew British airplanes. He was an American pilot that became a commander of a British squad. So initially, to get started with this project, I actually had a tiny model of a Spitfire, and I kind of put it at the angle that I wanted. I used photo reference for this just to get all my details accurate and correct. When I'm drawing man-made objects, that's a really highly important technique I use, is to use a lot of photo reference of the actual object, because you want to get your proportions right. Whereas fantasy vehicles, kind of like this stuff, you have some car proportions to go off of, but everything else can be kind of made up, and as long as it kind of looks like it can fit a human, you can get away with it. So anyways, these are just a few images. This here, I do a lot of hot rod art as well, and I travel to different hot rod shows and sell my artwork. And so this was a piece that I did not too long ago, where I have a love for robots and a love for hot rods, so I kind of put them both together in one image. This here was a concept from a long time ago, where it was a kind of like a real futuristic drift car that would constantly transform according to how it was driving on the track. So using made-up technology and creating something to go with that was a lot of fun. And this here, I will say, I created a lot of the random brush shapes in Photoshop originally, and then I ended up finishing the whole thing in Painter with the glow brush and a few other brushes I used in here. This image here was done for the official Corel Painter magazine. Actually, I take that back. Yeah, no, it was. It was in Corel Painter magazine. and they wanted me to do a whole tutorial on creating a vehicle with speed. So I talked about, you know, I used very little different brushes on this, but what I was showing is how to add the speed lines, you know, through the clouds to the mountains to the ground to really show a sense of speed in the painting. This here, just some of my other design work, robots. I love to draw robots, you know, stuff that transforms. This has the wheels on it, so it would transform into something. This here was done for 3D Total as a tutorial for a couple of their, one of their magazines, and also a book that they later put out. I don't know if many of you have seen that image, but it shows, I show my whole process of creating this vehicle here. And this here was just another hot rod piece that I have done in the past, and it was just a 32 Ford running through the desert. And I actually created a story that went along with this piece, and you can kind of see the clouds in the air. It's called Hurrying Back because he's trying to get back to his base camp. So, and then I used a lot of the oil brushes on this. Initially started the sketch with all the pencil brushes. And this one was done in Painter 10, I believe. So that's just a little bit of my work. If you want to see more of my stuff, I have a couple of websites. I sell all my prints and books. I'm working on my second book now, but my first one is out, and that's all on mastersofchickenscratch.com. And you can find all my artwork for sale and books and t-shirts. And then for the freelance side of my work is futureelements.net, and that one shows a little more of my concept work. And then I'm also on Facebook. You can look me up on Facebook /mastersofchickenscratch.com. And I'm also on DeviantArt under Future Elements and Coraflot and a few other design sites. You can usually find me under Future Elements. So you can go ahead and go on there, and I'll save you as my friend. So I'm going to go ahead and get started now on, you know, drawing some stuff and kind of show you guys how I work. And if you guys have any questions, go ahead and write them into Tanya, and she can get back to me, and I'll try to answer them the best I can as I'm moving along here. So for Painter 12, I actually was able to create a concept palette, and you can actually go up here in the windows, and here's the different workspaces. You'll have to download them from the Corel website, and when the initial menu comes up on Painter 12, there's actually a little selection there that allows you to go on and download new workspaces. And I'm one of the workspaces in there. It's the concept art workspace, and then you can load it up from this Windows palette here once you download it. So concept sketching is the name of the palette, sorry, or the workspace. So I have that loaded since I'm the one giving the tutorial, and you can switch back and forth to the normal Corel workspace to my workspace, and then there's a few other Painter Masters that created workspaces in there. And what this allowed me to do is you can see that I only selected 7 different brush palettes, so I really narrowed down all the brushes that are included in Painter. And this, like I said, this is all based on my concept sketching, so I got rid of lots of stuff just to keep it real clean for myself. And then I also created a few of these custom brushes, and these are based on Prismacolors that I would use using traditional materials. So I created a black pencil, a brown pencil, crimson red, indigo blue, and a light blue. And the light blue pencil is based on the non-photo blue that a lot of animation artists use. And then I have the indigo blue to basically go over that. It complements each other. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and use this time around. But seriously, through the first few phases, I only use like 3 brushes. I'll go between these 2 pencils and then also the erasers. And then when I go into coloring stuff, I'll use a few watercolor brushes, and mostly I use another custom brush that I created in the marker rendering palette. So let me go ahead and get started drawing a few things. And like I said, if you guys have questions, go ahead and ask, and I'll try to answer them the best I can. But when I usually get started on a project, I will get started with just a few thumbnail sketches. And I'm going to go ahead and draw kind of what I've done in the past with that cigar-shaped Salt Lake racer type vehicle. So I usually try to spend, I don't know, since I'm talking, I'm not going to be drawing as fast as I normally would because it just slows you down a little bit. You got to think about what you're saying.
Hey, Dwayne, we have a good question that came in.
Okay.
They're wondering, are you drawing on a pad or using a Cintiq?
Oh, yeah, I ended up getting a Cintiq. I have the 21 UX monitor. And but before that, I mean, what I learned on was a old CalComp pad that I don't even think they're still around anymore. But when I was in school, that's what I had used just because it was cheap, and I think somebody had given it to me for free, in fact. But since then, after that, I did start using Wacom products, and they were much nicer for sure. And when I went on my own with my own business, I know it's a chunk of change, but I invested the money to get a 21 UX, because when I draw straight on the monitor, obviously it's a little faster than the tablet, but that way you don't have to, you can see directly what you're drawing. But I know that even since I've been in school and stuff, Wacom's stuff has gotten a lot better. Even their cheaper version of the bamboo pad really is a nice, product to use. And I'm not saying that. I'm not getting any kickbacks from Wacom. I'm saying that because their product is nice.
And speaking of them, I sent a message to you all that we're going to be in their booth at ComicCon. Dwayne will be there presenting, and Corel Painter will be in the booth. So for anyone that's in San Diego that wants to drop by and see us, we would love to see you. And we'll be having an artist contest there. So I would recommend that you join our Facebook community for Painter, and I'll keep you updated on information before the show and during the show from there. And there's another good question here that's in regards of selecting your color. Alex is wondering, do you always have to draw in blue, or do you have an option of different colors that you can choose from?
Oh, yeah, definitely. You can, one of the things you can do is you can actually, here, I'll show you this real quick. So this is a normal 2B pencil, so it's black. And then you can load up the, let me load up the color palette real quick, or the brush. Oh, let's see here. Oh, wouldn't you know it, now I don't know where my stuff is.
Well, right, we are challenged because Dwayne is working at 1024 by 768, which is causing some of his palettes to not be where he's expecting them. So yeah. I blame this on myself, Dwayne, not you.
Okay.
But the answer to that question is actually yes, you can. And he's attempting to pull up the color palette to show you.
Yeah, I think it is off my screen right now.
Yeah, so it's a limitation of our screen resolution at the moment.
Well, shoot. Anyways, yeah, here, maybe I can do it through here. Here we go. I know this is not normally how I work, but the little round circle with all the color in it and stuff. So right now this color's set at dark, like it's a dark gray or dark dark gray color. So then you can go in here and take your 2B pencil and say you want a green pencil out of it. So then so we'll say okay to that. So see, it's green there. Then you can go back up to the brush palette here in this little window right here. you can actually say save variant. So it comes up and it says the 2B pencil, and you want to rename it, and you say 2B pencil green, and then you say save current colors, and now I have a green pencil in my palette now. So now I can select that, and I'll always have a green pencil.
Hey, there was a good point that someone made. The temporal color palette, Control Alt 1, the keyboard shortcut. I don't know if you can pull it up that way, but don't worry about it.
Yeah, I think it's because that palette's already up. It's not.
Yeah, it's already up. It's just hidden.
Yeah. So I was going to talk a little bit about generating my thumbnails. You know, I try to use lots of different methods for generating thumbnails so that I don't draw the same shape all the time, because it's easy for me to, and as designers and stuff, we tend to do that. We'll draw a lot of stuff of what's familiar, and we try to break out of that. So I'll use everything from a random brush to, you know, creating lines through the vehicle. I'll draw a couple wheels and just strike lines through there, not really paying attention to where I'm putting them. But then you can start to kind of connect the dots, almost pick the shapes out of the clouds is sort of how I look at this technique.
A question from Robert. He was wondering, how do you switch to straight line drawing mode?
Oh, you just hold down the shift button, and anytime you hold down the shift, you'll draw perfectly straight lines. But it's only horizontal and vertical that you'll get those straight lines. And if you want an angled straight line, I suggest using the curves tool, which is this pen tool. You can actually create straight lines with that at an angle, and then you can actually cause your brush to trace that. So you can see I got, and all you have to do is hold down shift to get that line, and it'll track with the with that line that you just drew. And you can also do perfect curved lines as well. So see this curve right there? I'll change my brush. Oops. Let's leave it light blue. Oh, now I take that back. You know what? Actually, you can get angles with holding down shift, 45-degree angles. What is it, Control Shift? I believe so. Let me go back to my brush here. Sorry, guys.
Just one other thing that I think may do it for you is the brush modes from the property bar. You should be able to switch to a straight mode there, but I don't know if that gives you the 45-degree angle.
Yeah, actually, I'm wondering if, I know this sounds weird, but I think that might have changed in Painter 12.
Ah, okay. Good point.
Because I think before, I thought you had to push another key combination to get the 45-degree, so hey, I learned something new. But anyways, for the curve stuff too, you can actually lay down lines on here. I can't remember what the key command is offhand. And I'll tell you why. When since I have a Wacom Cintiq, I actually have a set of sweeps that I had from school, and I made a small version of it, and I actually placed those right on the monitor to get my curves perfect. And I do that just for the fact that it saves time. I don't have to select any tools. But if you're doing a final drawing, you know, definitely drawing the curves on there and stroking that line is really nice, because it gives you a nice crisp line. And especially when you're dealing with designs and man-made vehicles and stuff, you want those crisp lines for your final design. So is there any other questions out there right now? Or?
I'm answering a couple off the cuff here. Let me take a look.
Okay.
There's a lot of questions coming in.
Okay.
Can you set perspective reference points? There's a perspective drawing tool that you can pop up. But
I will say that, you know, I feel bad because I don't always use those tools in the digital realm, because I've gotten, you know, decent at knowing my perspective, and when I create a grid, a lot of times it can be rough enough that I just do my own. So if I have to draw, you know, there's the 1-point perspective that I'll just draw, and then I'll start from there and start lining up stuff. You'll see me when I'm doing these quick thumbnails. I'm going to take one of these thumbnails and draw them in 3/4. But yes, I do know that there's some great tools on Painter where you can set up a lot of grids for yourself. You can even set up what is that? The thirds grid on, like if you're doing a full-blown canvas. I'm not sure if too many people are familiar with the rules of thirds, but it's where you take your piece and you split it up into threes. And so, you know, usually, you know, and this is a common rule. I'm not saying you have to stick to it, but you usually don't want to place your object right in the center of a canvas because it makes it very plain and boring. So the rule of the thirds is, you know, your image, you know, can be over here, or over here. You know, you have these 4 points that are good to put your, you know, your object in. It just creates a more interest. And I know there's a tool for that. There's also the that golden rule tool on here. So there's a lot of neat tools that Corel Painter includes, and I think they're great stuff for people to use for sure, because you can really learn a lot from it.
I actually, just to interject, I created a video. If you go to the features of Corel Painter, there is a video. It doesn't have sound, but it will show you all these tools that he's talking about, just to give you an introduction. So there's a question in regards of, do you prefer Corel Painter 12 over 11?
Oh, yes, I do, very much. And I'm not just saying that because I work with Corel. Painter 12 to me has been a lot more stable. And I tend to, when I have been doing my stuff, I would tend to draw everything in Painter, and I would move to Photoshop to render because it would crash sometimes. And now that I've gone to Painter 12, I've been using it more often to finish out the whole design. Just because it is more stable. I really feel it is. They've improved a lot in Painter 12. So I talk about not drawing the same shape, and I'm still doing it here. I guess when you draw on the cuff, it's a little different. Because usually I'll spend, when I do research for myself or drawing thumbnails, I'll spend at least a half a day just drawing thumbnails a lot of times, because a lot of the first few that you draw will be, you know, very, you know, stuff that you're used to, and you know, stuff that you're familiar with or whatever. And usually by the end of the day, I'm breaking out of that habit of drawing stuff that I'm used to. And it also gets you warmed up too, so you're starting to draw more advanced shapes and things like that. But yeah, keep the questions coming in. It keeps me talking that way. It's easy to stop talking while you're drawing because you can concentrate.
Okay, so a couple questions. Will you be shading your drawings? And have you been drawing your dreams?
Wait, say that again? I'm sorry.
Well, I'll let you address the first one. So are you going to have the opportunity to do any shading on the drawings?
Yes, I'm going to really try here. I'm trying to hurry up and just try to get one of these here because I know I don't have, I've got 40 minutes total, right?
Yeah, I mean, we said it, I think it's open to what you would like to do, Dwayne.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that way I don't bore you guys from just seeing me draw thumbnails the whole time. I guess, it also depends on the topic, too, because anything, like if you're drawing robots, obviously you're going to have more surfacing and real crazy mechanical stuff. On this one here, I gave myself a salt flat racer that's, I don't know if all of you are familiar with that, but salt flat racing, there's this place called Bonneville in Utah, in the U.S., that a lot of land speed record cars go out there and set records. So the shape of the cars are real kind of Aerostream and basic. So, they usually have, the driver barely fits in the car, and they're really low slung, and, they should look fast sitting there. So, I'm basically drawing a basic speed form.
Okay, so there's some more questions coming in here, and Laura would like to know who inspires you.
Oh, I would say, I think the biggest thing is that when I was in school, I looked at a lot of people's work, and I think some of my biggest influences were always vehicle guys. So a guy named Steve Stanford was a big influence to me when I was younger. Another guy named Larry Wood, which he works at Hot Wheels. And when I was younger, I used to see his drawings all the time because I had a good friend of mine that somewhat knew him, and they used to get drawings from him, and I'd go over there and look at the drawings and really get inspired to draw that stuff. And it was probably, I was in junior high when I really wanted to go to Art Center because I knew they focused on vehicle design. So anything mechanical, even when I was younger, I absolutely love Star Wars, which I'm sure a lot of us that grew up in that era, were inspired by. I used to draw Star Wars ships all the time. More modern type people is, I actually had Scott Robertson as an instructor, and I've always looked up to him. I think his stuff is incredible, and he's played a big influence on my stuff. A newer guy that's he's not really a newer painter, but I'd say he's a current painter, a guy named Tom Fritz. His painting skill is just to die for. I mean, it's amazing. The color and his sense of light that he uses when he does stuff is really mind-blowing. There's some phenomenal digital artists. The guy Craig Mullins, I'm sure most of you have heard of him. The good brush guy at digital painting. I think he's the godfather of digital painting. His stuff has truly inspired so many people out there. So, and then obviously a lot of classic painters. I'm a big, I love Impressionism. I love the fact of taking a brush stroke and indicating with it. Like, I'm not a real, I like detail, but I also like to see the brush stroke as well, so I like to see how a painter indicates something. So, yeah, so I think, there's a lot of influences that I've had throughout the years. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and take this drawing.
Someone asked if you're familiar with John, and I don't know if I'm going to say this correct, but John Berkey.
Oh, yes, I am. Yeah, I like his stuff a lot as well. Yeah, that guy was a master at gouache painting. He sort of, I think him and Sid Mead were kind of around the same era. And yes, Berkey is awesome. In fact, surprisingly, I actually have Berkey's book, which is extremely hard to find.
Do you ever make use of layers and masks at all in your work?
Mask I never use. Layers, yes. I use layers a lot. And I want to get up my layers palette here. That's what I'm trying to get.
Oh, okay.
But it's not working.
So once again, it's not working because of the resolution that he's at.
Yeah.
Typically it would be working.
So yeah, I'm just going to have to use it from here. Shoot. But yeah, as far as layers is concerned, what I do is I always leave my line drawing in the beginning when I start a rendering. And it's basically taking that layer and leaving it clear. Or if you've drawn it on a white canvas, you use multiply. And then I'll actually underpaint the drawing. You'll see me do that here. I'm going to go ahead and so I'm just going to take this, the side view right there, and I'm going to start drawing the 3/4 perspective here for you guys. All right, got everything.
Adonis has asked if anyone has approached you to design tunnel engineering vehicles.
Tunnel engineering vehicles?
Mm-hmm.
No, I have never had that before. That would be very interesting. Those things are crazy looking, though. I know I've seen some of the stuff when they're creating subways and things like that. So you guys were talking to me a little bit about perspective. Let me hit on that. When I start a vehicle drawing, I always draw my center line, which is this one here, and then I'll draw kind of this line here is where my front wheels will line up, and then my back wheels will line up there. And basically what these two lines are going to converge into one vanishing point. And how I know this stuff is it's just from drawing a lot. I mean, it really is mileage. There is no like tips or secrets or anything like that. It's just from drawing a lot, When I went to Art Center, we were drawing from 30 pages a week of cars or vehicles or whatever. So you just really get to, you adapt an eye for getting your perspectives. And then you have these other two lines, and these will basically be where my wheels, the outside of the wheels will line up. And this will converge basically over here. So, but I always start with those basic guidelines for myself, and then I start drawing my wheels. And if you guys want, I actually have a tutorial about drawing wheels on my YouTube channel. Again, it's under my name, Future Elements. And if you go on there, you can see a free tutorial. And I think I'm using Painter 11 in that one too. So there's my front wheel and my back wheel. This is a long car, so I can kind of stretch it out. And I use my wheels for proportioning my whole car. So, but usually my first line drawing is pretty rough. I don't really concentrate on the design a lot. I try to concentrate on my perspective and the layout to make sure that's all right. Because then once I get that base drawing, I can go over and do the design a lot faster. So
do you ever
can really figure out proportion? Oh yeah, go ahead.
Do you ever scan any of your traditional drawings in and then work on them?
I used to. It kind of depends on the client. Like when I'm working for, say a guy wants a hot rod design, and I've got to design like a 49 Ford for him. And what that is like usually I'll change the stance of the car. They'll want to pull, things off to clean up the car, or they might want to add a design detail. I will actually, a lot of times I will draw the car by hand, and then I will scan it in and color it in Photoshop. And then I'll actually print it back out, and I'll add markers and texture over the top of that digital file. And then I'll give the hand-drawn drawing to the client that hired me to do that. And it's just kind of a special thing. But when it comes to entertainment design, most of the clients don't really care. They just want to see progress, and they want to see a design at the end of the day. So I'll just draw directly digital, because they don't really care about having the line drawing or the actual paper line drawing. So yeah, it kind of depends what I do. But back in the old day, when I was using just the Wacom tablet, and it just was a little bit harder to sketch because the sensitivity wasn't quite there. I would just draw on paper, and then I would scan it in and render it that way.
Okay, so a few more good questions here. When you use a photo reference, do you ever use the clone feature in Painter? That's not what they asked, but they said, do you use it digitally as a template, which would be the clone feature?
Is that, let's see, is that when you paint over it and it kind of creates like a painterly look to it?
Yeah, where you could actually have
about the brush that
the photo reference would basically be sitting underneath the canvas, so you could draw right on top of it. That's what the clone does. And I'm thinking that you don't. You probably just look at your photo and you draw from there.
Yeah, a lot of times if I have to have an exact replica, like a lot of times, if I'm doing hot rod design, I usually have to make my stuff pretty accurate to the client's car. I usually request that they give me photos of their stuff, even if it's in progress and I don't have the whole car there. I will, I'll actually just use it as an underlay. And if I feel the perspective that if I don't like a perspective or something like that, I will find another car, even on the web, that's similar to what they have, and then I'll change it to their design. So I'll still create a line drawing. So I really don't use the clone tool. I know I've seen people do that, and I think it really plays well if you're doing a painting of an actual vehicle or something like that. Like, say you took a photo of a red truck or something like that, and you really like the layout, but you want it to look a little more painterly, then I would use that clone tool, for kind of a personal thing. But design's a little bit different. You are creating, some art, but you're kind of more focused on the design. So even with that 32 Ford that I did, I found photo reference that I liked, and I drew from the photo reference.
What kind of printer do you have at home?
Well, I have a couple. I have a Epson. I think it's R1900 is what it's called. It's not my favorite printer, actually. The one thing I don't like about it is that it doesn't. I always print on canvas a lot of times, like when I go to my shows, and you have to use their special canvas, and I don't like that. I wish I could just use any canvas that I want. And then I have a laser printer that I print out a lot of my small prints off of. And I sell prints for like $10 at the show, so those are my prints that, I don't have to put a lot of money in, but it allows people to take away something kind of cool, piece of art they can frame.
Are you going to be selling those at ComicCon?
I didn't even think about that. I could. Actually, I was planning on maybe bringing a few books. I could bring those prints.
Do you think it's easier to draw in Corel Painter versus traditional drawing?
That's a good question. Yes and no. I believe that my line quality is actually better on paper still. There's still something a little loosey-goosey, I guess you could say, drawing digital. But that's why I come back and kind of paint over stuff. Because I think painting and colorizing is better digitally, whereas drawing, my line sketches still look better on paper.
What kind of canvas do you like to print on? You had mentioned there's some that you don't like.
Oh, I really like this company called Breathing Color on online. And they offer several digital media type stuff on there that that you can purchase from them. And they offer like anything from photo papers to canvas to watercolor papers. And they just have a really nice selection. And what I like about their canvas specifically is it has a really nice, heavy, dense feel to it. Just feels like, you know, really good quality stuff.
And there was another question of what locations and what shows you might be at this year, specifically Dragon Con in Atlanta or Wizard World ComicCon in Atlanta. And I can't answer for Corel. We don't have plans to be there, but I don't know about you specifically, Dwayne.
Yeah, I don't really get out. You know, it's one of those things for Comic-Cons. I don't really travel to a lot of those. And a lot of it just has to do with I do a lot of hot rod art, and I just haven't really made an effort to get to those. I would like to. I would definitely consider it. It's just one of those questions, you know, is it going to be profitable for me to travel and pay for my expenses and, you know, go to the show? So, because when you go to most of those shows, like I have a real great opportunity with Corel to be in their booth with Wacom, but like most of the time we'll have to pay for our own booth to go to those, so you just got to weigh all that out. But as of right now, no, I don't plan to be at any of those. I did go to Chicago Comic-Con last year. A die-cast company had me in their booth, and that was a lot of fun.
So there was a question that came in earlier that I didn't ask you, and it was from start to finish, how long does it usually take you to create a finished illustration when you're not explaining things and answering questions and all of that?
Well, you know, it kind of depends on the complexity of the actual design. I would say on average, I'll usually spend, like for a final sketch, I'm knocking this out pretty fast, and I'm not really even liking it much, but you kind of see how I'm working anyways. It will be, I'll spend at least an hour on a final sketch to get it nice and detailed out and finished up for a client. And then usually for the rendering part, I will spend an average of about, you know, maybe I'd say 3 to 4 hours on the rendering process, and that's usually like several pieces on a page. So that'll be like 4 or 5 designs maybe.
Okay, so this question came in earlier, and I forgot to ask you, but do you use a lined path ever?
Oh, that's what I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, not really. I was saying that I have some special-made sweeps that I use directly on my monitor, and I'll take out my sweeps and use those for the curves. But I used to, before I had those sweeps, I would make curves for a final line drawing all the time.
Yes, sweeps.
Yeah, those are in the car design world. All car manufacturers kind of make their own set of sweeps, and what they are is basically their own style of a French curve. So I'm sure most people wouldn't know what a French curve is, but they're a little different in the fact that they're called accelerated curves. So they're like just one line, whereas here I'll show you, like a French curve will be, you know, kind of do this kind of thing, and you'll see that kind of stuff, whereas a sweep is an accelerated curve like that, and it'll usually end you know, with a one line. And what they use these for is creating just the different you know, surface tension and things like that on the automobiles. And I got my set of sweeps from when I was at Art Center. A bunch of us guys actually made a bunch of small ones. I have thrown around the idea of actually creating some of those and selling them online. I'm curious, would people be interested in that? Yeah. Anything?
Yes.
Dead silence?
Yes. No, people are interested.
Yeah, let me, I'm going to move into a little bit, I know I'm running out of time here. I'm going to try to get into a little bit of rendering. Just so you guys know that normally I would take this, because this line drawing is still pretty darn rough, and you know, there's a few areas that need worked on, and I'm trying to get all this mechanical stuff in here and things like that. Normally I would go over and create a final line drawing to give myself just some nice crisp edges and things for a final. Now when I'm showing a client, like I would actually count this as a thumbnail sketch. Like you can kind of see that, you know, you got some detail here, you got the cockpit here. So they understand what's going on, and they would make comments based on this thumbnail. But I'm going to go ahead and sort of render this up and kind of show you what I do real quick. So my favorite brush to use here, I'm going to have to create, let's see here, let's create a new layer. I really wish I could have my brush or my layer palette here, because I use my layers palette constantly. All right, so anyways, this marker brush here is what I use a lot, called the Flat Rendering Marker 2. And this is a custom brush that I created in here. And what it is I'll show you the difference. So you have a flat rendering marker, and this is what, oh, no, I take that back. That's kind of the same brush. Let's see, a blunt tip. See, with when you use the regular marker brushes, you get this kind of how it builds up, which is really cool. I like it a lot, and I'll use that sometimes. But to get my initial color, I use my Flat Rendering Marker 2, and what it is as you can see, that when you color, it doesn't have that ghosting or the buildup on it. So I'll use that to go over my stuff. And normally what I would do is I want to take this line drawing and place it on top, and then I'll take my layers and I'll actually go underneath it. Oh, hey, look at that.
There's a question as to why aren't you using the Mac, out of curiosity?
Oh, part of it was when I was learning at Art Center, you know, we were using, we were learning a lot of 3D software, and through that we had to use a lot of 3D programs, which at the time, basically the only thing that supported 3D was PC. So you had to use, you didn't have an option. Now they make most 3D programs for both computers. And so ever since then, I've just remained PC. I know I'm kind of a weird artist because a lot of people out there use Macs. And the other thing, I've just stuck with PC because it's cheaper. I've had a lot of luck with it. The new Windows 7 is actually pretty stable. When I was using Windows Vista, and I knew that it was time for a computer update, I was seriously pretty darn close to going to Mac. And then Windows 7 came out, and I ended up staying with Windows 7 because it was a lot better. And you can just get more of a computer for the money, so that's kind of why. But I'm not a Mac hater or anything like that. I totally love their product, and I think they make a good quality, you know, computer. So Real quick, this is something that I had done right in the beginning of getting Corel Painter 12. A similar type of concept, so it's good to show you guys. I use my crimson red pencil on that. So you can see my line sketch, and then what I do is I take my layer and I put my line drawing on top, and then I'll take my flat rendering marker, and basically I just added a real quick background, so it gives me one solid color. And then went in here, went in behind the engine and stuff and all the detail areas, went in with a darker marker, and then the edges of the actual vehicle and did a darker core, and then used a lighter value for the top. And like this type of rendering process right here seriously can take me probably about 10 to 15 minutes at the most. And you can pretty much pick out what's going on this vehicle. And this I would use again as kind of a thumbnail sketch for a client. Like I would never count that as a final rendering. So that's kind of what I do with those marker brushes and stuff. I have a few others on here. Oh, the airbrush, the digital airbrush is kind of how I get some of these softer blends on here. I only have 4 different airbrushes. The watercolor stuff, a lot of times I'll use that for background image as well, the same way I use the flat rendering marker. The salt's kind of neat. You can actually create some cool effects over the top of your image. I don't have the watercolor palette up right now, but I'd say download this palette and load it and play around with it and see what you like and don't like about it. But it's it's made for concept rendering and sketching. Do we have any other questions at all, Tanya?
John Deere, have they hired you yet?
No, I haven't worked on anything for John Deere yet. I did just finish the snowmobiles from Arctic Cat. Just launched this 2011 line. I worked on all those.
And yeah, that's pretty much the end of our questions that we had in the queue there. But Dwayne, I don't know if there's any other information that you want to pull up for everyone, links to all of your great website properties, and we can certainly include that in our follow-up email.
Let's see. I was going to show you YouTube right here. This is my Future Elements channel. So I have, actually I have my process pretty much on here. So if you guys, want to see more, and I go more in depth with these tutorials, I have a Draw Hot Rod Part 1, Draw Hot Rod Part 2. Also in there, I believe I have a rendering section. Oh, here's the wheels. These two here I actually drew on a Nintendo DS. But this sample shows a little bit of my rendering process, not the full thing. I have a book out called the Hot Rod Art Book, Masters of Chicken Scratch. I have Volume 1, which is currently out, and Volume 2 is getting ready to launch here in July, August. And again, you can find all those books on mastersofchickenscratch.com. And what I wanted to add is these books come with a CD, and I walk you through the whole process from sketch to the full rendering. And it covers about an hour and a half worth of content, so I'm not rushing the process as much. And you get to hear me explain a lot more. And I'll also be doing more for Corel in the future. Maybe on the next segment, if I come back for one of these webinars, I'll just concentrate on the rendering side of things.
Yeah,
so
that would be great.
See how I would work.
Part 1 and Part 2.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, there's that website, and then here's the Masters of Chicken Scratch website. This is where all my artwork is. I have one video tutorial in there that you can purchase. Artwork is all my prints and stuff that I sell. Then here's the books. I have a few different books in there. Apparel. I have a couple of T-shirts that you can get. So yeah, and then I also have my my Facebook page. That's a big one that I post a lot of updates that you get to see. So Yeah, so I'd say you can search Dwayne Vance on the web too. I think I'm one of the few Dwayne Vances out there that you'll find a lot of stuff on. um, yeah, join my Facebook page, and if you guys ever have any questions, write them on my Facebook page because I usually try to get to them. I have this guy here that will write me every once in a while. He's a teacher, and he'll post, like, he teaches little kids car design and stuff, so he uses my book, and he'll post stuff that students have done on there. You know, I post stuff on here, like shows that I'll be going to, so you can find out everything about me pretty much up to date on my Facebook page.
All right, terrific. Well, I want to thank you once again, Dwayne. It's a really great session. Everyone seems really happy based on everything they're putting in the Q&A panel right now.
Oh, good.
So we really appreciate your time. Thanks a lot. And we will post on corel.com/webinars. You'll see the whole schedule of upcoming webinars that we have. And we will have a part 2 where we'll feature Dwayne doing his rendering. And I'll be sure to let everyone know about that.